Good afternoon, Turks and Caicos Islands. You are listening to the Patriot Hour. I know you're accustomed to this voice being on Real Talk, one of the hottest news shows in talk radio, but this is Jas Walkin reporting for duty in the Patriot Hour. So this is not the no spin zone this evening. This is the Patriot Hour, but I promise you there will be no spinning in here today. And for the last couple of weeks, the Patriots have been looking at the Turks and Caicos Islands politics in a time capsule. We know this year we are observing the 40th anniversary of ministerial government in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So for the last couple of weeks, we have been taking a look back decade by decade. And this week, we're going to be looking at the last decade, the current decade, the most important decade, because this is the decade that we'll be able to chart our next course to the future. So I don't know why they picked me for this decade or this guest that I have in studio today, but I'm quite sure that some fireworks can be happening up inside here today. And I'm going to get right into the meat of it. He needs no introduction, so we can skip all that. But his name is Mr. Ron Higgs, and he is our guest on the Patriot Hour today as we look at 2006 to 2016. Mr. Higgs, welcome to the Patriot Hour.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Now, let's get right down to business because time is of the essence. When did you come back to the Turks and Caicos Islands?
I came back Turks and Caicos February 7th, 2007, a day I would never, ever forget, not just because it was the time I returned home after a long time, but it was also the day I lost a very good friend in Mr. Donnie Gardner.
Okay, so you returned home that same day that
Same
Donnie
day.
died. Oh,
Same
wow.
day.
That's a day you won't forget for true.
Won't forget it.
Yes. Now, Mr. Higgs, I know that you were very, very instrumental, or were you in the Turks and Caicos Islands during the Black Power movement back in 1976?
Yes, I was.
Give us a brief synopsis of what your view of that movement was.
I thought the Black Power movement was a movement of liberation for the Turks and Caicos people. And while I was pretty young, I was old enough to understand quite a bit. And the leader of the Black Power movement, as I knew it, Honorable James McCartney, made it very easy for a young man like myself to understand what was going on, even though he made sure that we didn't get involved on that level. Okay. But every opportunity he got, he made sure that we understood that movement was to pave a solid future for us.
Now, one of the, if I'm incorrect, please correct me because I wasn't born back then. But one of the main issues that came out of that movement was constitutional advancement. Correct?
Absolutely.
Now, in 2006, a year before you came home, the former premier, Mr. Michael Mizik, had talked about constitutional advancement as well, and successfully we got a new constitution, so to speak, in 2006 that changed the name of the chief minister to premier. The premier was able to appoint more ministers in government, and the government, instead of having one appointed member, they were allowed to have two appointed members. There was also some changes to some of the authority and the autonomy given by ministers over their ministries. Now, subsequently in 2006, we had a number of new initiatives and projects that took place in TCI. Now, in 2007, beside that Memorial Day when you return home, can you give me your perception of what the Turks and Caicos Islands looked like to you in 2007 when you returned home?
Sure. When I came home, got at the Provo International Airport, I was very excited. I mean, it was nothing compared to when I had left. If you're talking about buildings and, traffic and the rest of it. However, as I exited American Airlines and headed toward the terminal, I saw right away that we were headed down the road of some tough times. And I didn't keep that to myself, Turks and Caicos. I made sure persons who were in authority politically and civically heard from me firsthand what I saw, how I felt about what I saw. I left the Providence Jollies Airport on that day, and instead of going home to be with my aunt and my cousins who met me at the airport, a friend of mine took me directly to the Sun Stars Resort. And I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that, but this is Diggy Higgs. I call it as I see it. I call it as I know it. And I was not happy with what I saw when I got there. And I was even more disturbed when I started feeling that we have allowed ourselves over the years, despite the so-called development, to disintegrate, morally speaking, to the depth that we have disintegrated to. And so I made that known. I made that known with the government of the day, including the leader, Honorable Mizik, and other folks who was present at the meeting at his office in Grace Bay. And then I made it known to the country. And I said to them, before this is all over, we as a people will pay a serious price. And Turks and Caicos, whether you agree with me or not, I believe you would have to agree that we have paid a serious price. My concern today, though, is that the paying is not over. The paying will not be over until we as a people recognize that good, no matter how long it takes, will always overcome evil, no matter how long it takes. And I'm not here to preach to anybody today. I'm just trying to remind us about the mission that was laid for all of us, that we conveniently, when it's a matter of convenience to us, we stray from it. But it's there, and all we have to do is get back to it.
Now, you're mentioning you had a great concern about the labor and employment situation that you're speaking to, right? Now, from back in 2007, you're telling me that you saw what was going to be arguably the biggest challenge and the biggest downfall of TCI from back then.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And you know, I Turks and Caicos, if you do hear me slip and call him nephew, that's exactly who he is to me. But yes, the truth is, I saw it. And to me, sometimes it's not enough to see something, but you have to speak to it.
About it.
Help people to understand why you're saying what you're saying. And I did that. I made that known, I mean, everywhere I went. I mean, whether it was the Veranda uprising, whether it was the 7-star situation, whether it was the West Caicos situation, whether it was the closing of the airport situation, I made it known that we will pay a price for our behavior.
For our behavior.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, I'm going to revisit that employment issue because we're into 2016, and that's there. Now, I want to move along chronologically. The next year was 2008. Now, 2007, you came at the height just 2 days before the general election.
Absolutely.
And that election saw the PNP party get 13 out of 15 seats in our legislature, one of the biggest landslides in the history of this country.
Right.
I want you to briefly describe to me what are your thoughts on that election victory. Not so much the election because you were not here for most of the campaign, but the results of that victory 2 years later was the resignation of Michael Mizik in 2009 and the Commission of Inquiry in 2009 and also the suspension of the Constitution in 2009. So let me hear your thoughts on that, and I have some follow-up on that.
Well, as you rightly said, I was not here for most of the campaign. But once the results were made known, and of course I was living with my aunt and my cousins, who I'm certain they wouldn't mind me speaking the truth, who supported the PNP. And so what I tried to explain to them, while they were being so jubilant and celebrating and everything, I said, democracy works best when there's a check and balance.
Okay.
And the way I see it, when you look at 13-2, there's no checks. If there's no checks, there ain't gonna be no balance.
No balance.
And of course, their response, jokingly, I guess, was, "Oh, you just bitter because you're lost." And I just smiled at it because it was obvious to me at that point they did not understand the mistake that they just made. It was obvious to me this country did not understand the mistake they just made because the government didn't vote for themselves. The people cast those ballots.
When you say mistake, do you mean mistake in terms of electing the PNP or the number by which the PNP won? Because
it's a combination of things, but I think the number, to me, the number that they won by came as a direct result of them not understanding how dangerous man can be when you put power in his hands. Absolute power I'm talking about.
Okay.
And 13-2 to me is absolute power.
Okay, I asked that question because I was on a talk show a couple of weeks ago, a debate with Mr. Dwayne Taylor, and he said that the country regretted the mistake it made in 2003 when it voted for the PNP, and I said to him, I disagree with the statement because I will not call a victory by a party after an election a mistake, because the people have a choice to choose the party that they want, and at the end of the day, democracy is democracy. So I want to just clear that up, but I understand now. You're looking at the numbers by which and the power that they gave one party to rule in the legislature versus a more balanced, as you would say, legislature.
Right, and again, to support my statement, right, is the bit what I talk about check and balance.
Okay. Yes.
Check and balance.
Checks and balance.
And if Mr. Taylor said that they made a mistake, I can understand why he said that. I can see. We make mistakes every day. We are human. Okay. Sometimes though, it's not just the making of that mistake; it's what you do about it after you find it's a mistake. Now, if you decide you did something and you're suffering as a result of it, and you get a chance to fix it, and you do it again, I'm going to start to question your sanity.
I got you.
Okay, so
I got you. Now, the Commission of Inquiry was a very, very difficult time for this country.
Right.
I personally consider it the most humiliating, the most degrading that I have ever felt as a Turks and Caicos Islander.
Right.
Because I sat and I read through pages and pages of testimony given by my elected officials and my government officials regarding some of the deepest and most disappointing levels of maladministration and what Sir Robin will call systemic corruption in our country.
Right.
What are your how did you feel during the inquiry process? What was going through your mind?
At first, disappointment, and that started to change to anger. But then, Jas, as time went on, again, I had to step back. And I want to hop on something that you just said. You just spoke about your personal feelings. Personal, right? Personal. Somewhere in the scripture it says, to whom much is given.
Much is expected.
Say it again.
Much is expected.
You have been given much. You have been given much more than a lot of people. And so to those persons who didn't understand it, you and I have to go back and say, Lord, just help me, because I was expecting too much. Yeah. When we start to expect more from people than they can deliver, we have the problem, not them.
When you say that, I have to say here, Mr. Higgs, I also think too, I don't think Turks and Caicos people were surprised at the results of any government that they elect. I would say they are shocked at some of the details.
Okay.
Because we know some foolishness is going on. Don't fool you. I don't want you to think for 1 second that TI people fool. Now, they used to me speaking just what on my mind. TI people ain't fool.
All right.
They know some fishy stuff was going on. They knew that there was some deals happening that did not make any sense. They knew that they were getting money too easily for not lifting a finger, and their conscience let them know that this don't make sense. But what I find happens a lot of time is that we elect one set of people to govern us, expecting something different from what we know they can deliver. When I say that, you cannot, the Bible says, put new wine in an old bottle. You cannot get orange from an apple tree. You cannot get good water from a bitter fountain.
It's all good.
So I want people to understand that what transpired had to transpire because the people that you elected, that was what they were elected with the intentions to do. Because I believe, and if you disagree, tell me, I don't think they discover corruption. They didn't run across land swapping. They didn't run across some of those bad deals they made based on what they themselves gave evidence of during the inquiry. It is my political and personal opinion that that was something that they wanted to do from day one. And I think we as a people paying the price for it.
Well, of course we're paying a price for it, but and I don't disagree with you in the sense that, once again, To whom much is given,
much is expected.
much is expected. So while you can sit there, right, and observe, discern all these things, and watch it unfold, there are some people who sit there with better than 20/20 vision, and they still can't see.
Can't see.
And these people are our families.
That's true.
These people are our neighbors. These people are our friends.
I think they can see. They just choose not to.
Whatever you want to say. But you have to conclude because of their behavior.
Yes.
They are seeing but not comprehending.
Now, something just ran across my mind because I didn't skip over it, but the inquiry took place in 2009. But there was a major event that took place the year before that kind of brought the inquiry closer to home. Because remember, when all the reports were going up about the ridiculous spending and the lavish living of the former premier between 2003 and 2008, it was a lot of hush-hush. But we had a major hurricane, category 5.0, and I think it was a 4.0 when they hit Turks and Caicos Islands, called Mr. Ike. Ike did a lot of damage to TCI. It is also believed that it was the first time after Ike that the country realized that the surplus the government say we had was not there. How did Ike impact the political events that transpired in 2009 and so on?
Well, once again, I mean, Turks and Caicos, despite my shortcomings, despite my stumbling sometimes, there's still a God. And I think Ike came along to expose to us in ways that we could no longer deny what was going on. But Ike is gone. The question is, what have we learned? And I say, if you want to find the answer, look at our behavior. Because some of us are sitting for a second time around that will never come.
True.
It will not come.
Now, in 2009, as a result of the Commission of Inquiry and the findings, it was decided by the United Kingdom to suspend the Turks and Caicos Constitution for the second time in the nation's history. Do you believe that the suspension was warranted? And do you believe that there was a need for a British intervention in the Turks and Caicos Islands in 2009?
I believe, let me take the last part of it. I don't believe the suspension was warranted.
Okay.
I believe that we had back then, and we still have today, more than enough capable people to run this country. I believe that the British government could have dealt with that a different way, and it didn't have to go as far as suspension. Wait a minute. It didn't have to go as far as suspension.
I hear you.
And I also believe, and I will say to the British government when that time comes, and it will, I also hold you accountable for some of our suffering simply because the British had a presence here. The British government had a presence here. And I would never believe that the governor did not know what was going on. So when the conspiracy theory started to fly, if he knew and he told them and they did nothing.
But Mr. Higgs.
Let me stop you. Yes,
Go ahead.
yes. When my own hurts me, it hurts a little more. But at the end of the day, they had a responsibility, Mr. Walkin, just like we are still crying about the borders. What happened to that so-called Constitution?
I agree with
What
you.
happened to it? So why then are we up there crying about, please come do this?
But my counter-argument is this.
Go ahead.
I am hearing this from the likes of people that are crying for independence and self-determination.
No, wait a minute.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Hold on. You're asking me to take our desire for independence serious, but we can't even reel in our political officials that we have, that we have elected, that we have given power to, who turn around and abuse us. We cry into the British to put the hammer down when we can't get rid of them. But hold on. Give me my time, Uncle. Give me my time. All right. I agree. The suspension was not needed. But if you're saying that the British presence was here and allowed this to happen, I agree. But you can't get your cake and eat it too, because when the governor in the history of this country have stepped in and put his foot on certain desires of the politician and the local people, we cry out British oppression. When the governor let the premier rule the way he wants to rule and allow him to make decisions that he wants to make, and it lead us straight into the sinkhole, then we cry out, oh, the British governor was here. Why he didn't let it happen? We can't have it both ways. So my question to you was this. If you're going to blame the British government for allowing the premier and his cabinet to carry this country to a place where the inquiry had exposed what they exposed in this country to suffer the debt that it suffer, then my question again is, why didn't the people of Turks and Caicos Islands that elected that administration, that put them in power, hold them accountable and get them out of power?
And you said don't stop, you let
Go
you
ahead,
go, right?
go ahead.
And I let you go, right?
Go ahead,
No,
I'll
let
give
me
you
go.
time. Go
Let
ahead.
me go. Let me say it again. To whom much is given, much is expected. Turks and Caicos, without sounding disrespectful, there are some of us who have been giving that little extra something, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, but when those some of us get out there and try to talk about what we see, we become ostracized. Before I came to the show today, I was at a location in Provo where a number of taxi drivers talked about the job that my nephew was doing right here. And if they were present, they will tell you what I said in response to what they were saying. It's not enough of him. It's not enough of him. And as soon as his uncle joins him, watch what happens. So then it's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about who's being offended. It's not about true to lie. It's about who's being offended. My life isn't it has always been. My first obligation is to the truth.
To the truth.
And if you can't handle it, that's your problem, not mine. I will say it again. This is not an independent country. The British government had every right, every power, every whatever you want to call it, to come in here and stop what was going on if they so desired. Now, folks on the streets are saying that the British government allowed it to happen so that they could come in. Baloney. They didn't have to let it happen. They could have stopped it. When I left American Airlines, walking to the terminal, I saw it. Turks and Caicos, I was here for not even 5 minutes. So if I can see it in 5 minutes, don't tell me there were other persons here who could not see what was happening. They had to have seen it. When I left the airport and went to that resort in Grace Bay, there were persons who've been living here for years who passed that place every day going to work, past it going home from work, and watch those people, they're starving. Don't tell me you didn't see it. They didn't come when I got there. They're always there. And I've heard my people, my friends, say they shouldn't have been here in the first place. And this is why. We are paying a price. This is why. Wrong will never never conquer right. Never. And we as a people must know that. We say we are God-fearing. We are Bible-reading. We are religious. We are spiritual.
I think we have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air. This is the Patriot Hour. Hello. Hello, caller. Caller, are you there? I think we lost that caller.
But, while we're waiting to see if we can get back through that caller, the reality is we have got to recognize independence is a journey. Mm-hmm. And had we stayed the course that the Honorable McCartney laid out 40 years ago, we would have been either independent or so close we'd be able to smell it.
I think we have that caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Mr. Walkin.
Yes, hello.
Is that Ron Higgs you have on today?
Unfortunately, yes. That's it. That is it.
Ron, I'm listening to you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know why I have to call, but the analysis by both of you are very thought-provoking. We have a constitution that is imposed from the outside. I think we need to keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's the best constitution, the best thing for the Turks and Caicos Islands, but we have a constitution that is imposed from the outside. And there are certain checks and balances that is upheld by the Constitution. It is true there has been a resident governor, but again, the opposition in the parliament has authority to complain to the Foreign Affairs Committee on irregularities that affects the system. So I find we are very contradictory in one sense. You say, this is it, and then undermine what the opposition members had done. And I know when we speak out, we get ostracized. I experience that all the time, but I'm not bothered by that because I watch them fall by the wayside as soon as they attack me. And I listen to the Honorable Golray Ewing in the House of Assembly with all of the motions that he has presented. He gets attacked. He has been ostracized in the House, but we need to teach our people how to think out of the box. Golray has on every occasion achieved something because he has championed unconcerned issues that was being presented by the governing side. And so that's an achievement on his part, and we need to get people to understand he has achieved much. I mean, I know they've gone to the extent to call him the motion man, but that's unconcerned issues that affect us. So he has to get credit for it. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. The caller mentioned that the opposition played a role in bringing the inquiry here, and they took a lot of beating for it. There were a lot of people that said, "Oh, you all brought the British in, and that's why this took place and whatever." But my concern, Mr. Higgs, is that when we are talking about becoming a self-governing country, we need to mature politically. And if we are not going to hold our elected representatives accountable now under British rule, then what is going to happen to a country when you are self-governing and you don't hold them accountable?
How do we, let me ask you, in your view, how do we hold our elected officials accountable?
Well, I know how I hold them accountable.
Stop right there. And that's why I kept saying to you, to whom much is given.
Much is expected.
However, the unfortunate part about this much is that it's just you. And as soon as you're joined by someone else who's thinking like you, come on. Wake up tomorrow and you can't find that person.
True.
That's what's going on.
That's the problem.
That's what's going on. Right? And, you know, I recognize the voice, a good friend of mine, and I'll go look for him when this is all over. But, you know, yes, the opposition did what they were supposed to do. However, I still think for the opposition to get the support that was needed to probably warrant off the British coming and suspending the Constitution, okay, I think people had to be willing to, first of all, open up their minds and then open up their eyes and understand what the opposition was saying. They did neither. And the reason I'm saying they did neither is because look at the results. If I'm coming a little too hard for you, let me know.
No.
Look at the results.
You're talking my talk because I want to ask you something.
Go ahead.
You're skipping some years, but anyway.
That's okay. Take me back to it.
Let's move up to 2012. We just survived the British intervention. We just survived the 10% cut, the interim administration being here, had a white man and several officers. We just survived all the information, the details from what the PNP administration had brought this country to. We just survived second historic suspension of our democracy in this country. Yet in 2012, when the general election was given to the people, the country had a choice between the Progressive National Party and the People's Democratic Movement, to a lesser extent, the PPP. I remember these few words correctly, but PPP. Mm-hmm. In a very closely decided election, the PNP got 8 seats, the PDM got 7 seats.
Right.
My question to you, Mr. Higgs, and there's a number of questions I have to ask you, because you're looking at from 2006 to 2016. Mm-hmm. I hear the PDM opposition that they are now continuously saying to this country, if you want a PDM government, you've got to vote for PDM government. I've heard them say that they have been in opposition for 13 years. Why has the PDM been unsuccessful at the polls in 13 years, despite all the atrocities of the PNP administration?
For a number of reasons.
Let me hear some.
I think one of the things that we cannot hold them accountable for is the fact that they haven't tried to educate the people. They did that. But see, like everything else, people have got to first want to be a part of something. Adults, not kids now. Because if you're kids, we spank you in your butt and tell you, come on, let's go. But when you're an adult, you have a free will, right? You have that power of choice that hurts so many of us. Okay? So you make the decision based on how you feel, not so much what you hear sometimes, how you feel. Okay? And I think that's what has happened. Now, as a PDM, I still sometimes question some of the approaches of my party.
You do? You question?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why. Because once again, I believe sometimes we could be a little more aggressive in some of the things that we do. Okay? I honestly and truly believe when you talk about coming to fighting for the very soul of a nation, okay, when you consider where we are right now, sometimes you have to do little unorthodox things, so to speak. Okay? I honestly and truly believe that this time around, the people of the Turks and Caicos are just sick and tired.
Sick and tired of what?
They're just sick and tired of the same old. The stuff that was going on for the last 13 years, as you just said, with the PNP. And it's up to us in the People's Democratic Movement, right, to not just say to the people, but to show the people. And we will do just that. Now, when the next morning comes and we find that the people still want to go the same route that they've been going, you can't accuse us of not educating, showing the people why that choice two terms earlier was the bad one, okay, or not the right one. You can't blame us for that.
You know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say to you what I said to Mr. Devin Taylor.
Go ahead.
To this table. I said to him, and this is my generation's assessment of the People's Democratic Movement.
Okay.
First of all, politics in this country has changed in the last 13 years.
Okay.
Especially to the young people that I speak to and the ones that listen to me talk.
Okay.
We're not very concerned about what the PDM did right, what the PNP did wrong, or vice versa.
Okay.
We are interested in a vision for where our country needs to go. I keep saying to PDM supporters and the PDM leadership, if they ever listen to me, because that's another thing too. I've found that the PDM reject wisdom too many times. I've found this out personally. When you go to them and you give them counsel, and they can call me right now and they can refute it. I've spoken to PDM leaders over the years, and I've given them advice that they refuse to take, only to come back and say, Jas, you know something, you all right. And I'm not saying that to say that somehow I have a political force. I know I got that. That means nothing to me. But I keep saying to them, when you go back to the drawing board and assess why you have fallen short to convince the electorate to make you the government, do you do some internal assessment at your party? Look at what you have been offering to the people. Because trust me, the PNP is going to be the PNP. We know what they're about. Winning is the objective and the goal. After they win, they figure they're going to govern. That's how come we always end up in trouble. And I can say that. I call it down the line. The PDM problem is they have a record of giving us stable government, but they cannot find a formula to win the government. And the sad part about it is, and I keep saying that, they have lost touch with a generation since 2003. And I am not sure that they have done enough to capture that generation. Let me hear your thoughts on that, sir.
I believe that the PDM has done and continues to do what is needed, all right, to be in touch with that generation. I will ask you, because I listened while you were speaking, right, and you talk about they don't listen. Is that the reason why you decide to walk away like the other two or three or four?
Absolutely.
So what does that make you then?
What do you mean?
Someone who's afraid to fight?
No.
What does it make you?
I'm not interested in fighting a party anymore.
No, I didn't say fight
no,
the party.
No, hold on, listen. Mr. Higgs, let me tell you something.
I'm listening.
I said to you that my generation, we don't eat, sleep, and breathe political party politics. We want change for our country. We're interested in a change in governance. We care less about a change in government. Meaning that governments have changed in this country for the last 40 years. But the three things that the Honorable Jackson McCartney were fighting for in 76, we're still fighting for it now, which means that we've been in a wilderness here. And the only way for us to come out of this political wilderness is if we change course, not just politically in who governs us, but rather how we are governed. When I made the choice not to seek nomination, which I don't really want to talk about now because we're talking about the last 10 years, but since you asked, I have to answer. When I made the choice not to seek the nomination of any political party, especially the PDM, it was based on a number of factors. One of those was based on my experience 4 years ago when I approached that organization, or rather when I was invited. I realized that there are some things in there that needs to fix, that they don't want fixed, they need to fix but don't want to fix it. Two, for the change this country needs right now, and for the change that I believe in right now, for me, I am willing to go to my country as Jas Walkin, unattached, Team TCI, rather than trying to fight a political fight with the People's Democratic Movement and much less the PNP. I think we have a call. Hello, caller on the air.
Yes, good day, gentlemen.
Good day.
Jez, I heard what you said in many different ways. I was listening to you and Mr. Higgs. To me, it's a tragedy that we lost in 2012, the general election where we was expecting that we should have won because of all the things that the PNP carry the Turks and Caicos Island through, and the frustration and the bad name and all of that, all right? And come back and, resume power as government of today. It goes right back from 2003 of the what we'll call, say, mistakes or stabbing in the back, all right, to win those two by-elections. But instead of all of that, I'm saying to this day and now, okay, the PDM, all right, with our leaders, all right, and members of parliament and our candidates, all right, I uphold their ability, their trustworthy, their education and everything, what they have done for the Turks and Caicos Island since the decease of hero, Honorable Jas McCartney, that we will stand, all right, firm 24/7, 365 days of the week, and wherever it takes us, that we will not kneel, bend to anything or in any way on how the PNP win a general election. We have educated our people in the right way, all right, and we are educating them every day. And if they be foolish enough, all right, to take a penny or a drink to lose their butt right, all right, then we will suffer and suffer and suffer and complain as long as we live here on the Turks and Caicos Island. Because we educate them, all right, and we educate them to the full extent on what the PNP is about, what they do, and what we already experience. So it takes them to make the choice if they need a change on us governing them the right and proper way in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Thank you.
I have to respond. Caller, thank you for your contribution. And I'm spending longer on this topic than I really want to, but it's out there, so we have to discuss it. We're discussing the last 10 years. And I've listened to the narrative that Dwayne like to talk about, and you've made some valid points, but I keep getting the sentiment that every time we discuss the results of the elections since 1991, this country is being blamed or somehow saying when you elect a PNP government, that's because you don't want the country to do well, or when you like the PDM government, you want the country to do well. And for me, democracy is about the choice of the people. And I am not going to give any political party a bypass okay, for what they do after they get elected. In 1995, the people removed Washington Music from government and gave Derek Taylor and the PDM a 8-5 majority. Was that because they no longer wanted a PNP government, or because they fell in love with the PDM? That's what election is about. It's about parties going to the people, campaigning, presenting a vision for them, and the people have a choice to elect them. Now, the result is, since 2003, that the people have been choosing the PNP. And I want the People's Democratic Movement to, under the sound of my voice, to understand, Jas Walkin. Go to the drawing board, assess yourself, do an autopsy on your party, and find out why you have failed to win a government and give this country the government that you say is the best government. Because the record is there. You have achieved a lot for this country. The PNP have achieved what they have achieved. Okay? I can have real talk all day. Okay, but let's get something real. We are not going to be saying that one party has done the best they can, educating the people on why they want to be elected, but at the end of the day, people keep making a mistake by voting for the PNP. Now, I'll tell you this. History will show that every time the PNP get a second term, it results in a suspension of the Constitution. That's history. Now, if the people are aware of that, then they have to assess again, is that a road we want to go down again? But at the end of the day, in the last 13 years, one party has been the government, like in Jamaica. 18 years, one party has been the government. And to me, when the people want change and they want to elect something different from what they have, the people make that choice. I'm going to move on from that, and we're going to take a break at 2 p.m. Commercial, and we'll move on. Now, Mr. Higgs,
yes, sir.
We've been talking a lot of politics. And I want to talk about 2012, the new Constitution. Mr. Carl, and I think that was he said we're dealing with an outside Constitution. I got a problem with that. Because
I'm listening.
Every time this country gets a Constitution, it's written by somebody else outside this country and given to us. Yet, I've heard the PNP talk about independence, especially under Michael Mizek. I've heard the PDM talk about independence. The leader of the opposition, she called in to defend her party's position after I made a statement regarding independence. And my question is, when are we, the people, going to write a constitution that we want for ourselves, give it to our people to discuss, make a choice on, and give it to the UK and move on from there?
Well, Jas, I mean, I don't think it's a question of when we, the people, are going to write it. We can do it now. I said earlier on, we're very educated and intelligent people. But I would also agree with Mr. Ewan. I want to ask you, why did you have a problem when he said it's an outside constitution?
I don't have a problem with it. I agree it is. My question is, why do we keep depending or allowing them to give us outside constitution?
It's not a matter of us depending or allowing. And please give me a few seconds to go through this one. Mm-hmm. We still have leaders who try to tell us that the power lies with Great Britain. Our Minister of Immigration told a meeting I was attending one night, the power lies with the governor. If this is supposed to be a democracy, the last I checked, the power must lie with the people. However, if the people don't know that, how else do you expect them to behave? And if the people are going to know that, why don't people like you and I and our Minister of Immigration take time out to teach them the truth?
Well, that's what I've been doing every day.
But don't forget what I said earlier on about you being a lone voice in the wilderness.
I just got to defend my contribution.
Okay. And see, you, like myself, like a number of other persons, have done what you're now doing. Okay? But for some reason, anytime it gets a little hot, we still have those persons in authority, inside and outside, who will find ways to shut it down. And where we have been failing is to say to our people, this is what's going to happen. Before, like I said about the suffering, the reality is we know better. We know better. Sometimes we don't know better. We know.
All right. We're going to pause right here for station identification. I want to remind you all that
the following is a message from the Department of Disaster Management and Emergencies. When a hurricane or tropical storm threatens, Listen to the radio for the latest news on the impending threat. A hurricane watch means that the hurricane conditions are possible in your area within 48 hours. During a watch, prepare to take immediate action to protect your family and property in case a hurricane warning is issued. Hurricane warning means that a hurricane is expected in your area in 36 hours or less. Complete all storm preparations and evacuate if directed by your local disaster management office. The proceeding was a message from the Department of Disaster Management and Emergencies and your favorite state.
Precious Memories, located on the 5 Keys Road next to 2005, your number one spot for all your printing needs in the Turks and Caicos Islands. We print on anything such as buttons, pens, pencils, t-shirt, posters, banners, cars, windows, tombstones, and stream printers. We're your number one spot for trophies, plaques, license plates, banners, embroidery craft designs. Phone us at 946-5067 or 333-5067. Precious Memories is up to your imagination.
Hello from the other side. Let the whole world know this is how we flow.
Say hello to music on the move anywhere you move. Your jams stream effortlessly on our world-class mobile network. Welcome to Different. Welcome to the new flow.
This is how we bond, and this is how we share. Let the whole world know this is how we flow.
See how we're doing things differently at discoverflow.co. Never miss a moment with smart new apps like Flow to Go and Flow Football. All the action, all the time. Playing now on your smartphone. Welcome to the new flow.
How we unite, how we celebrate life, how we achieve, we all will believe. This is how we bond, this is how we share. Let the whole world know this is how we flow.
Experience more at discoverflow.co.
The views and opinions expressed in this special program are not the views or opinions of Tropical Vibes 105.5 FM.
Welcome back to the Patriot Hour. I'm your host, Jas Walkin, here with Mr. Ron Higgs. I want to remind you all that in 15 minutes, one of the hottest DJs are going to be right here in studio. I know you're waiting for her, Crazy Chrissy. So stay tuned. She's going to carry you through the evening break. So I want to also remind our callers that you can call in now at 244-1789. That's 244-1789. We'd love to have a few calls about the show today. 244-1789. Yes, Mr. Higgs. We got a new constitution. We were talking about the Constitution. We went to the polls again, 2012. We've had elections since then. Can you talk about the last 4 years thus far of what you observe and compare it to when you first came home? Your thoughts?
I think the Constitution, this new one that we are now working with, in my view, is a more regressive Constitution. There's no question we were in trouble financially and otherwise, but I think when you look at the fact that our representatives went to England and accepted that
I
Constitution.
think we have a caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Walkin and Mr. Higgs, it's me again.
Yes.
The reason I mentioned or I made the statement, we have a constitution imposed from the outside, it is because every time we've had an amendment for a constitution or been given a new constitution, it is always an Englishman or an English person or a British person who comes down to that, and all we have is public consultation. I don't know how effective public consultations have been as it relates to a constitutional review or for constitutional advancement. Actually, I was not in a position to attend the last one that was done. And I often make reference to what transpired in the Bahamas. And one would think I want the Turks and Caicos to copy everything the Bahamas has done. But truthfully, the Prime Minister Pinling, when he was Premier, led a delegation of 8 on 2 different occasions to meet the UN Committee of 24. And each time, just to pursue for independence for the Bahamas. And as usual, every time he went, Dame Dr. Doris, only women ranked as part of this delegation. I personally know Dame Dr. Doris Johnson. I worship in Bethel Baptist Church, where she belongs. And the Reverend H.W. Brown. The Reverend H.W. Brown was a prominent Baptist minister, pastor of Bethel Baptist Church. My aunt attended. My aunt was a member of that church. I know what I'm saying. And so when I look at constitutional review for the Turks and Caicos Islands, I always say to myself how this country keeps falling short of Christian values. And Dame Dr. Doris Johnson, who was a high-ranking member of Bethel Baptist, was there to ensure that values is preserved in nation building. That's thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewan, and I would like to respond. I endorse your comments 150%. I have not discussed this on the air because I have not been really politicking, so to speak, as a candidate, because I'm still dealing with a lot of issues that need to be addressed in this country. But that's a key observation, Mr. Higgs, that is so missing in this country's history, political development. Whenever we talk about Constitution and its advancement, I checked the annals of history. I could be wrong, but I have not read or recorded one where an elected government of this country went to the United Nations to speak to that same committee that's independent speak to regarding the Turks and Caicos advancement. I have not read it, I've not seen it, and I think we have another caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yes. You were talking about Constitution and who wrote the Constitution. If I'm not mistaken, I think the 96 Constitution was wrote or partially wrote by Mr. Dan Malcolm Consigus. I think that but let's look at our.
Hello? Hello? We lost that caller? Hello? I think we lost that caller. Caller, please try and call back in. We want to get your comments. I was saying that we have yet to see a set of elected officials become serious enough, because I remember the former premier talking about independence a lot, Michael. And I asked a question in the weekly newspaper. You want independence so bad. Why have you never pursued full internal self-government? Because there are stages to independence, and what is so interesting, there is no one clear path to independence. I keep hearing people talk about the British say that, we only have 2 years after full internal self-government for independence because they don't want another Bermuda. I said to them, show me where that is written in some sort. I've never seen it. Just last night I did some homework on decolonization, because I try my best to do homework, something that a lot of politicians don't do. And I read the UN Charter on decolonization. It says in that charter, I read it yesterday on my show, that it is the right of a people to decide the time, the path, and the process to self-determination, and that the country that is responsible for its administration as its colony should not hinder such a progress. When we need to be real with our people, and we need Turks Islanders to stop giving some public officials and leaders excuses when it comes to why we have not advanced further. Not on my watch. Is that a caller? Hello, caller, you're on the air.
I was saying earlier, but I got it cut off. I was saying, if I can remember correctly, some years back, Mr. Dan Malcolm either wrote or I know he played a part in the Constitution. So we do have talent in the country. We don't recognize what we have in this country. We don't understand? We could be on the radio from now until Timbuktu. TI is the one that decides what happened to our country. Okay? They vote their way. They want to vote. TI get whatever. But you come in your house. You're not going to stop him? If you keep on loving to come in the house, you don't contact. TI need to understand what's going on. They need to make the change.
Thank you, caller. And I agree with you that we as a people need to do that. But the only way that's going to happen is when we allow ourselves to become informed. When we take time out and go home, like Mr. Walkin said, and do your research. There's a computer pretty much, I believe, in every home. Sometimes I would say to my fellow taxi drivers, instead of us talking about this, that, and the other, let's talk about something that's constructive. Some good stuff that can advance all of us, not only as taxi drivers, but as people. You don't find those conversations are taking place today. So when things happen to us, we are not informed about it. And for the most part, like I said to Mr. Walkin a while ago, it is so easy to do absolutely nothing. Think about it. It's very easy.
You have a caller? Hello, caller, you on the air?
Mr. Higgs, my problem with that is, you don't need to be no rocket scientist or do no study to know what's going on in our country where we keep falling down. I mean, I worked for you for 4 years. I contracted for 4 years, right? Just like I worked for you, I'm you inside my mud white, my kids mud white, and then I go do the same thing next 4 years. Come on, man. We don't need to be the rocket scientists. We just, as a people, like hard treatment.
Well, I don't know if I want to endorse that part of it.
Yeah, you should endorse it. You know why you should endorse it? Because that is the same thing as a political party telling me I'm voting for the other side because I like bad government.
Well, Jas, once again, right? I think that when you hear about kind's greatest fear is change, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that. Okay? And so, to me, it's not whether or not people see it. I believe they can see it. Okay? But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to push people in directions that's good for them. Sometimes just telling them is good for them is not enough. Okay? Sometimes you have to push them. And I go back to saying, sometimes we believe people are capable of things that they're not capable of. It's just that simple. And again, that I don't mean that with any kind of disrespect. That's just the way it is, right? Sometimes we have been exposed to some things, and because we have been exposed to it, we believe that others have been exposed to it. And sometimes we can be very wrong. Let me go back to what I said a while ago. Turks and Caicos, I have no problem going to Waterloo or to the governor's office now and saying to the governor, these are the things in our Constitution that Great Britain is responsible for. I'm not going to tell them, please tell Great Britain come do so and so. Man, tell Great Britain get their butts down here. That's the kind of leadership I think this country needs. I think that's the kind of leadership that ushered in the two-party system. I think that's the kind of leadership that addressed that situation in Grand Turk with the naval, with the Air Force, with the military bases, and the U.S. government. That's the kind of leadership. Sometimes you have to meet people on levels that they understand.
This is our last caller for the evening. Go on, caller.
Yeah. Once again, Jas. You know, Mr. Dwayne Till was on earlier, but I guess he didn't want anybody to call it, right? He was talking about the great white elephant. Okay, the horse too. This great white elephant didn't just suddenly appear yesterday. That was here from some years back. And what I dislike people hear Dwayne talking like his party is not a part of the contracted 4 years personnel that have decided government receiving a paycheck. And those things make me upset. For 4 years, I was inside there. Because now I gotta give Dr. Ewing his strike. If you all can remember, when they had the live debate going between him and Oswald Kippen, when Oswald Kippen say how he would deal with that problem, that's a major problem. What did Dr. Ewing say? He's not going to attack it like that. And he kept his promise. Right? The PNP, the PDM get elected as with 7 numbers. What have they did with the white elephant? Now, election around the corner now, it was transparent, or it just get visible. The PDM collecting money every month for 4 years to work for this country. I hear him head on the former leader, and he clearly stated that the opposition role is to make the people know what's going on. They are the overseers for us, and to make sure the government are transparent. So I guess the PDM now they've done for 4 years. So I guess the PNP are transparent.
Cole, I can't agree with you that the PDM did nothing. Once again, we are talking about adults in this country, not babies. Okay, and if the PDM comes out there and bring the truth to the people, bring the message to the people, bring the path to the people, and they reject it, you can't blame them for it, right? You can't blame them for it. And if anyone says that the PDM did not address the issues in this country, not just address it, but bring solutions to what they perceive as problems, I think they'll be wrong. Okay. So no, I don't agree with that. I mean, where you and I might be on the same page as well, the approach. Okay. But even though my approach or your approach might be different, it doesn't mean that they are wrong. Okay. And I will never accept that they did not try to educate these people, even in the House when you listen to the House meetings. Okay. They're calling it out as they see it. But at the end of the day, when the voters count, what do you hear?
I have a question to ask you after this caller.
You want to go for an extra hour?
Well, they give us 10 more minutes, but I tell the producers they better come on this year because it's getting a little bit hot in here. You have a caller? Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Let me ask you something. Okay? You inside there as the opposition. Okay?
No, I'm inside as a Turks and Caicos Islander.
You want to tell me 2016, you don't understand where the power lies? The power lies in the people. You see that thing, what happened to the immigration bill that passed here and Bermuda, it didn't pass? You know why it didn't pass? The opposition leaked it and they rallied the people up. Come on, man.
Mr. McLaughlin, you're a good friend of mine. At least I believe that. And maybe you tuned in a few minutes late. But if you were listening, you would have heard me say from the very beginning of the show when I called out the Minister of Immigration. When he said the power lies with the governor, I said, no, the power lies with the people. I've said that. I'm on the record of saying that. And I will continue to say that. If we say we are here, we must understand where the power lies, and that's with the people. Now, however, caller, people can have power and not know it. People can also have power and not understand how to use it. Now, if that's a discussion the Turks and Caicos want to have, I don't mind having it because I don't mind learning. But I firmly believe if we're going to say there's a democracy here, the power lies with the people. And I'll tell you, sometimes you have to meet people. It doesn't matter what their position is. It doesn't matter who they are. Sometimes you have to meet people on levels that they don't get. And I've always said that. It doesn't matter if he's the governor. He is not more important or has more authority than the people of this country. But what good is it if only I believe that? What good is it if only Mr. Walkin here believes that? It's no good. So some kind of way, Mr. Walkin, myself, and you got to find a tactful, maybe a creative way to get the people to understand, buddy, you don't have to take that. You are better than that. Here's why I'm saying that. But at the end of all that, those people got to then buy into that. Because if they don't, what we are saying is nothing. Why are you clearing your throat, man? Why am I mashing your toes?
No, because
thank you very much.
I want piece of this action.
Well, come on.
I'm glad you say that because you've been answering the question that I've been trying to answer for the supporters of political parties that don't feel as if the people understand them. I tell people over and over, if the mandate of a political party, according to the constitution of the PDM that I read a few years ago when I was interested in party politics, it said that the goal is to provide for this country a government for the people, a government for equality and justice. If that's the goal of a party, and that party reaching that goal, then I think you need to go back to the drawing board and reassess why you're meeting that goal. Instead of every time diagnosing the people as the problem. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Mr. Higgs, you know I'm a friend of yours.
Sound like you gotta come inside the studio, caller.
Let me show you something. What I'm trying to say to you, right? You've been the opposition. You are powerless, but just support it. Come on the street and rally them up. Come on, Mr. Higgs.
They stop that.
The opposition doesn't have any power.
They stop that.
The people make things happen. Have you ever seen it happen from Jas McCartney time? Jas asked one time, I'm on the show, a couple of times in fact, they need to go back and do their assessment. That's one of their problems right there. The PDM become a party, not a movement.
Wow.
Well, Cole, I hear you, and I believe wholeheartedly that the party or the movement that you said that has stopped partly stopped because you decided to stop fighting and walk away. But I'll say to you right now, despite who is listening, there's plenty room for you too, because I know you to be a fighter. Okay, let's get it right. If somebody offended you, including myself, let's get it right and let's go fight for the people. Let's go fight for this country that you say you love. That's the way to do it. And I'm not trying to say to my nephew here that you shouldn't do what you want to do. You're a young man, intelligent man, smart man. You can do what you want to, but all I'm going to say to you is do the right thing.
I'm going to let you tell me.
Do the right thing. So the point I'm trying to make, the People's Democratic Movement is by no means perfect. No means perfect.
We got a caller here. Hello, caller, you're on the air.
I just answer before you ask the same question. Now, I on the record as fighting physically inside though. Don't forget that. Okay?
And I don't want you to forget that I was there. I was physically there present.
All right? So don't worry about accident to fight. That's one reason why I left the PDM. There are no fighters inside though. You, like Jas said, you go to them, huh? They brush you up. They brush you up.
No, listen, buddy, like I said a while ago, the People's Democratic Movement is nowhere perfect. Okay? However, if we all stay on the outside and complain about what's wrong on the inside, but we refuse to come inside to try and fix it, and like you said, you got into a physical fight, and like I said, I was present, but that should not have given you the right to run away. Come back and fight. It's not just about the People's Democratic Movement, it's about this country. If you believe what you just said, then come back and fight. Stand up and fight. If you believe that the power lies with the people, why are you running? Because you're powerless? Come back and fight. That's why I decided to stand and fight. Because I know for a fact that when I look from whence we came, when I look back from the beginning of time, I can't believe anything else but to believe that mandate, those goals, those objectives, were the only real objectives and goals for this country and for us as a people. And if anytime anyone wants me anywhere and talk about it, I am more than welcome.
I want the number to call is 244-1789, and I want to put you on a timer because I think we have a few other persons who want to call in. We got a few minutes left. Mr. Higgs, the last 15 minutes.
You put me on a timer?
I won't come with the station now with you, but they wouldn't let me out. The last 15 minutes, the caller and you have been going back and forth about what has gone wrong or right with the PDM. My question to you.
No. I did not go back and forth. What was going on,
all right. Well,
let's
just say people on the outside coming in.
Okay.
I tell you back. Tell me something. Why has this opposition, despite its activeness, despite its education, despite all that they have claimed to have done to convince this country that they are ready to govern, why have they been so scrutinized in this last 4 years?
Once again, I think the closer you get to daylight.
Hold that thought. Let me get this call. Hold that thought. Sorry. Yes, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me give you my name so you know who I am. I'm Charles Garland.
Hello, Mr. Garland.
And I've been listening to your show. And both of you all are correct in some ways. But listening to Mr. Higgs and he talk about the power with the people, that's true. Without the people, it don't make sense sending the elected members into the legislative council because they carry the weight of the people. But then you got to remember, democracy says the majority can always pull a deal, whether it is right or wrong. Now, when it comes to Constitution, we know that a lot of times people so educated, sometimes they decided that it would be better to let outsiders come in and give their support or give their opinions on what we would like, instead of sitting down among us or even sitting under the tree with the boys and get what Turks and Caicos Islanders would like to see, especially with pastors, bishops, or anybody that is in the... Because if you go out there and you vote for a non-Christian elected members, then you got to get non-Christian answers. You can't get something that is in there. And this afternoon, one of the main things, and I hope that you make an assessment of the parties of the independent people, and you check if they ain't got no Christian ability in them or very good, those people ain't need to be elected. They have to have, because you can't go out there and vote non-Christians into the service of the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Kelly, got 10 more seconds.
Stopping now.
All right.
And if you, like I say, if you vote the same thing or you pick the same thing, you get the same outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. We're going to be wrapping up in 2 minutes. The kind lady has given us some extra time, but I don't want to take her sweetness for weakness. Caller, the phone line's hot today. Hey, you must need to come inside the no spin zone, Mr. Higgs. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Hello.
You've both been quite articulate. Ron, you sure generated a lot of interest today being on the radio. But you made a statement a while ago that we need to meet people at their level. That is so true. Sometimes I feel the people who come into our system tend to forget the ancestral heritage of the kind of people that make up the Turks and Caicos Islands. And you know, I heard Dr. Carlton Milton on a radio show one time making the statement that every person that that applies for Turks and Caicos status ought to undergo a course of study at the community college on Turks and Caicos. I sometimes feel that that is also required for some of the people who come into the political parties and offer themselves for public service, because I tend to think they forget the greater part of our heritage. And you spoke at the beginning, and I missed your show at the beginning until someone called me and told me that you were on the air. I don't know how you feel about unions. I heard you speak out in defense of the people. I support that. I hurt for people in this country because I see the failures of a constitution that allows us to enact legislation such as immigration and labor that just doesn't offer no kind of protection to our people. And I said that because in most cases when they have immigration and labor problems, if it's with an employer, and especially if he's foreigner, not on Turks and Caicos status, and they have to go before the court or the labor board or wherever, the employer have a lawyer. The employee cannot afford a lawyer. Most of our employees cannot afford a lawyer. Decide. That's why I defend the unions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewan. Normally, when I'm hosting a show, I do the closing remarks, but I will wrap up for us. 90 seconds. Go on.
Thank you. I don't know about 90 seconds, but I'll try. Turks and Caicos has been a pleasure for me after being gone for a long time to come back on radio at 105.5 and to let you hear me one more time. Ron Higgs is still there. My views haven't changed. My passion, my drive have not changed. However, I said a number of times that if this is going to be fixed, it's better for us to fix it than them, because when they fix it, we might not like the results. And for the last several years now, we found ourselves dealing with their results because we refuse to fix it. Turks and Caicos, we can fix this. I'm still here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. Thank you, Turks and Caicos Islands, for listening. This has been the Patriot Hour. Have a safe weekend, and I pray God's blessing on you throughout the storm. God bless. Thank you.